Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Preschool All Stars podcast. I'm Bethany Johnson, and I am rejoined today for a follow-up episode with Beth Koenig. How you doing today, Beth?
I'm doing pretty good. Things are going really well. In fact, we are rearranging my new classroom that we're organizing. We just put in 2 shelves yesterday, like big, tall ones, and I am so excited.
Nice. Nothing gets me more excited than organizational tools because no matter how much I organize, I'm still a mess.
Yep.
Well, I'm excited to hear what you got going on because you were one of my first interviews, I think, and it was like a year and a half ago that I talked to you, I think, or something like that. And so tell us where you were when we first spoke. You were just getting started. What was going on there? Just for anyone who missed your first episode.
Yeah, I had the preschool going.
Online, right?
Yeah, my online preschool, and we were on a trajectory to figure out all of our educational programming from birth to adulthood. And and the last year and a half has been amazing. As far as figuring out the programming and stuff, we're actually looking at starting a private school in September. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Online or local?
It's going to be online, so it's going to be a virtual school. And I'm super excited about it because with a private school, we'll actually be able to hire some specialists because, right now I have about, I think, 6 special needs kids in my program.
Okay.
And so I really want to be able to offer additional services and going towards a private education model versus just homeschool enrichment. We're still going to keep our homeschool enrichment program, but we're going to be adding on the private schooling option. So I'm really, really super excited about it.
Ooh, I can't wait to hear about it. So your homeschool enrichment, what ages are you catering to right now?
In the homeschool enrichment program, we're doing 6 to 22.
Awesome. And how many classes do you have going on?
Right now for enrichment, we have 3 groups. So we have the really little ones are our pre-readers and learning to read. And then our fluent readers are in our elementary program until they transition into kind of middle school, high school classes. And then they go into our high school adult transition program.
And what classes is it all literacy?
We are offering all core academic subjects. So reading, math, social studies, history.
Awesome. So what's your schedule for those? How long are they on for those?
Our youngest ones that are our pre-reading group, we only do 45 minutes a day, Monday through Thursday. And then for our other students, it's 90 minutes per day, Monday through Thursday. It's, right now, our elementary program actually just goes for the full 90 minutes, whereas our high school program is basically 2 blocks. So they do 45 minutes, and then it's an hour and 15 minutes break, and then another 45 minutes. So a lot of the kids do lunch or something, or sometimes when they're working on really projects, because sometimes they have really intense projects and stuff. And so they like to get that feedback in the morning. They can work on it during that break and then come back and we can revisit that stuff. So it works out well for the high school program to do that way.
Awesome. And how many students do you have?
I have 9 students across all the programs. So
nice. And are you the only teacher right now?
Yes, I'm currently the only teacher.
Awesome. Okay. So tell us about your private school.
Okay, so the private school is going to be really cool because we are going to be sending the kids tech. So we are going to be issuing them Chromebooks and Amazon tablets.
What?
Yeah, so each student will be receiving that and it'll be custom programmed for their specific program. And
wow.
Yeah, everything's customized for our students. Yeah, so we're actually looking at hiring a tutor to help with that, and so we can expand tutoring hours. And once that happens, of course, we can offer that option to our homeschool enrichment families also. And then We're also looking at hiring some professionals such as speech and language, OTPT, just trying to round out that thing. Even though it's specifically for our special ed students, I also want to look at how we can integrate those services in for our typically developing students as well.
Mm. Tell me about that. How are you planning on doing that? I like that.
Yeah. So for instance, our speech and language, we can all work on expressing ourselves. We can all work on breath control and just these various things that are involved in speech therapy. Mm-hmm. So a speech therapist is very familiar with all these tools and techniques. And so they can help, work on our typically developing students and giving them, tips and advice on how, to do those things, especially when it comes to like public speaking or, just one-on-one stuff.
That's what I was going to ask. Are you going to have like a separate class, like a public speaking class that would be taught by that? Or how would you integrate it into your regular classes?
Well, I'm going to be offering one-on-one time with a speech therapist to the regular students.
Okay.
So that they can, work on whatever their individual goals are, whether that's, clear enunciation or, whatever kind of things that they have issues with that would cause them a lack of confidence or, anything that they need help with in that area. And of course, our OTPT, that would be, integrating, things about movement and maybe helping out with, different sports and stuff, different exercises for different things that they want to work on and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So kind of having a very well-rounded program. And so because I can offer that to our typical students, it'll then make it financially viable to have it available for our special needs students. And that's kind of the model I'm going with, is that if I offer it to everybody, then those kiddos that do need to have speech every single day, mm-hmm. they're going to be able to get it because everybody's paying for it. And mm-hmm. so that's kind of my dream, is to have like this, global program. And so everybody's going to get the benefits of it. And because we have the speech therapist working with every single student, we're going to know which students need to work on these things. And I'm sure there's special needs students that need to work on their enunciation. And so if we have typical students that also need to work on that, then we can have that in, a group setting where we can be like, okay, let's all work on our enunciation. Let's all work on, hey, this is like, Shakespeare. Let's work on how we pronounce these words. And we can focus on, if there's a S problem, an SH like sh problem, or whatever their specific thing is, we can focus on different words and different phonemes and stuff. And I really think it could work out really well.
Totally. I've been kind of struggling with some of the students, when you want to, identify anything that any extra help they need when they're young. And I feel like that's a really important part of being a preschool teacher. And so we have Child Find, which is like the state program that gets them evaluated, that would give them an IEP if they go in school. So I refer them to that. But a lot of times it's hard to to even give that referral to some of the parents, you know what I mean? Because some of them don't understand that they may need help or just different things. And I find myself like with certain parents are they know they want the resource, and some parents kind of like push back on that resource. And I'm trying to figure out ways. So I have a speech therapist who comes, and she's only working with one student now, but I would love to bring in like occupational therapists and speech therapists that can pull out kids during their preschool day. But I've been struggling with ways to try and, I don't know, introduce parents to the idea of getting them evaluated for certain things, whether it's speech or social emotional or just really anything. There's a gamut of things that they could do. And my husband recommended maybe interviewing someone from Child Find and asking them questions about, the process and things that they may be looking for different things. And do you have advice? Because I'm sure, we're all preschool owners, whether it's online or local, how the best way to approach a parent when you think a child may need to be evaluated that wouldn't put them on the defensive. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's actually something even I've struggled with, and I have a background in, going to child's IEPs and, doing all the advocacy stuff, in school districts. That's,
Right.
what I was doing for 20 plus years.
So you are the person to talk to about this. So I am interviewing someone I need to interview. Perfect.
Yeah. So, it's always hard because you don't know where the parents are in the process and stuff. And so you generally do get those two, opposite
Yeah.
things. Like either they really want the resources and they
Mm-hmm.
need the help and they know it, or they're kind of in denial or defensive about it. And it's really hard. And it could be that, in one family you have two different parents and
Right.
they
That's what I
could be
just dealt
on,
with yesterday. Exactly.
yeah, yeah, on the opposite ends. And it can be difficult. And one of the things that we have to do is be willing to have that conversation, because we have to do it for the sake of the children.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
Because we know how important it is,
Yeah.
especially in early childhood. And it can be frustrating sometimes when like you know what this kid needs and you want to. And I feel like I try really hard to present it in a, I would never diagnose, I'm not qualified to diagnose anyone, and I tell them that. And that's why just getting them, evaluated could help them with resources. But sometimes it's so frustrating when, I know they just want what's best, but it's hard because it's like, just get them help. And I feel like I'm like in situations like yesterday. Normally I feel like I do a good job, but I felt defeated and because I was like, clearly what I was saying wasn't registering and I want to get this kid help. And I would love to have people come in like you're doing, whether it's for my online program or whatever, just to have that in-house. So maybe it wouldn't be so daunting to send them to some evaluator at the state. You know what I mean? I feel like that's like a scary thing for them. And they're scared about getting their kids labeled with an IEP and, that'll follow them forever. And all these like fears that people have because they don't really understand, what it means. So I feel like
Yeah.
putting together resources like that, even informational resources or creating a whole program centered around it, like you're doing, is such a awesome needed thing because parents don't know. They don't know
Yeah.
and they don't
And
understand.
And it's really interesting that you bring that up, because actually in my own parents, when it came to my diagnosis, I'm actually on the autism spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
When it came to my own diagnosis, when I was a kid, my dad didn't want me to be labeled. He's like, no, we don't need a diagnosis. We don't, she's the way she is. We're just going to, continue working with her and stuff. My mom was like, no, we need this. We need to seek help. We need professional help. And it's kind of interesting because at the time that I grew up in the 80s, there wasn't really much help for kids with my condition, right? There wasn't, help for those of us on the spectrum. And so what ended up happening is my dad, even though he didn't want me labeled, he very much knew that I needed help. And so he would work with me every single day. He would work and go to work all day, and then he would come home and he would work with me in the evenings. And I'm the way I am now, with my social skills and my ability to communicate and everything, because of my father.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. And so, there is a lot of stigma that people have, and especially in different cultures, right? And we have to be really aware of that,
Right.
and just, try to empathize with people. It's like, yeah, I know that, there can be, issues, with your family, with your friends and community. But at the same time, if you get these early intervention services, then your child will get the help they need, and then maybe they won't need them in the future.
Right.
Or,
Right.
when they grow up, they'll have the best chance at having, a life that they're able to participate in to the fullest of their ability. And that's what I highly believe in, is that, we shouldn't deny people an education or, the ability to do things. We should help them as much as possible and provide that scaffolding that they need to reach those, those as high as they can. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that's something that I really, really believe in. A lot of people are like, well, how do I teach all these different age groups? I'm like, you just meet them where they're at. You provide that scaffolding to get them up to that level,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not that difficult once you start thinking about it, because everybody's like, oh, well, they're, all on these different levels, going back to the whole preschool thing is like,
Yeah.
well, my 3-year-old is, working on colors and my 5-year-old is working on, CVC words. And how do you match that? And, it's just see where they're at and provide, lessons that incorporate what each child has to work on.
Absolutely. I mean, that's any teacher. I feel like that's the hardest part. One of the hardest parts for any teacher, because whether you're in first grade, I mean, you have such different, you always in a classroom full of kids, you always have such different levels in academically and socially, and catering to everyone's needs and making lesson plans that can be differentiated in so many different ways is really challenging. I mean, I still struggle with that. And I feel much more confident in it now, but now I'm having to teach my teacher that because she's not used to that. And so I'm trying to come up with ways to, it's challenging me to be better at it because now I really have to show her how to do it. And so it's interesting coming from your experience was really interesting. Do you think that if you would have gotten help outside of the home, it would have been different? Or do you feel like your dad provided you exactly what you needed, and although maybe it wasn't for the right reasons because he didn't want you to be labeled, and that's maybe not the right reasons, but he wanted to put that work in, and he knew that he could provide you what you needed? How do you feel about that versus going the traditional route of getting an IEP? Or I guess there wasn't really that. I don't know. I still kind of feel like even our IEP systems are failing. They're not really giving them what they need either. If everyone had a parent who could do that, that would be totally different, but they don't. And that's, I feel like, the hard part about it.
Yeah, I actually did end up on an IEP
Okay.
during my time in school, but there wasn't really the adaptions and stuff that they made for me. It wasn't really
Enough.
Yeah, it wasn't enough. And it was mostly my dad and my own drive to learn
Right.
that saved me from falling through the cracks.
That's it. What you're going to be able to offer in your school is you're hiring these people that will work online with them in class and individually.
Yeah, we can have people come into class, and that's the beauty of having online professionals, right? Is I can hire these people and they can literally be in class with us, and they can be doing their observations, or they can actually be working with the students. And I think it's just going to be the best of both worlds. I have to admit, I'm all good with hiring the professionals, right? I know exactly what I'm looking for in those people. I've worked with other professionals in the field. Some of my friends, work or have worked in those fields. And so I'm very confident in that. The thing that I'm not really confident in is hiring other teachers. That is going to be an area of growth for me this coming year, I think. Looking at, I especially need somebody that can sub for me. Those inevitable things in life that come up, and I still want my kids to have access to their live classes. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, it's hard. It's hard finding teachers to hire. It's hard. I'm so glad that I finally found one that's she's awesome. It's great. It's good. But yeah, no, I feel that. It's hard. And especially finding a sub, because you're not giving them like all the hours. You're not like, here's the set hours that I need. So that's even harder, because people usually aren't looking for jobs that are like, whenever I need you, you know what I mean? So I feel like you might find someone who's like, yeah, okay, I'll take that. And then they get another job, like a full-time job or whatever. And you're like, oh, I need you to sub. So that's definitely a tricky one. But it's doable. But yeah, the hiring process was not the funnest. Although Joy has her whole system on how to do it, of course.
Yes. Joy's systems are awesome.
Yeah. So she makes it easier. She makes it easier, but just being being a boss in general is hard for me, because I don't know, it's just not a role I'm used to. So, but you learn, I'm learning.
Yeah.
I just had a talk with my teacher today, and she's like, next year we have to take off for spring break because I don't have off for spring break. And I'm like, I know, you're right, we do. And she's like, don't you? I was like, last year I just went all the way through. I was just teaching. It was my first year, and I hadn't really thought, I took off for winter break, but I didn't give myself a spring break. And I was like, I just went all the way through. And she's like, yeah, lots of parents go on vacation and stuff. I'm like, I guess I never went on vacation, like as a kid, we never really went on vacations. And then as a grown up, I never went on vacations until, yeah, I just didn't have the money, and when I had off, I was working another job, I'm just like, I'm so used to just like hustling that I forget other people like want breaks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and she's my teacher, and she's like, don't you get burnt out? And I'm like, I guess I've just been like perpetually burn out for like a really long time, and that's just my constant, so I just keep going, but I forget that like now I have a teacher's needs to take in mind, and I don't want her to get burnt out, so I got to think of these things that I just don't think about until she brings them to my attention. Even just little things like that you got to learn is
in fact, my first year, I only did like major holidays, and we just take off the week for the major holidays. And then I realized some of those other holidays, no kids would show up for class on that day. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm in this room by myself, like, what do I do now?
Totally. Yeah.
And so I realized that, you know what, I got to take off like every single holiday. It's a waste of my time. I can be doing other things to work on my business, to
exactly.
Get other
and
things.
Why not take off holidays? I mean, why? I guess I just have a thing with like, if they're paying for it, I feel bad taking off, and that's, I think, where I'm going wrong, because like everyone does that in preschools and whatever, like that happens. But I'm worried that parents are going to be upset or something. So I don't know. I preemptively just don't do it. And then the parents are like, yeah, I'm not going to be there that day, and because it's a holiday. And I'm like, oh, I should have taken off. Definitely should have taken off. So yeah, we learn. Yeah. What is your schedule going to be like in your private school? Tell me about how that's going to differ from what you have now.
Okay, so basically our private school, we're going to be, we will be the only education program for our students, because right now our students in the K-12 program, they're homeschooled students.
Okay.
So their parents usually do have other things that they're doing with them. And so in the private school, my whole concept is that we'll probably be the only academic programming that they're receiving.
Okay. So you're going to cover all the subjects and have all the grades. Are they going to be kind of still intermingled with the different grades? Okay.
Yeah. And it's interesting because that flexibility, especially between elementary and high school, I don't have a middle school program, right? So I do have, younger kids that go into my high school classes when they're ready. And I do have older students that might still be in an elementary program, in the live elementary program, and they're all working every single kid is working at a different level than all the other kids.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting. It's a unique challenge. I don't really get bored because there's always, something going on. Somebody's always doing something. There's kids that have some unique behavioral challenges, and and then different aspects of things that you have to address, and it's not boring,
Well, that's good. We don't want boring, but when I hear unique, I think that's a very positive way. Unique behavioral challenges. That's a very positive way to put it. It's not boring with unique behavioral challenges, which every teacher knows about those unique behavioral challenges. Yeah, totally. So do you have tuition rates worked out for that, and how many hours a day, and how many teachers you're going to need to hire, and your plan for all that? Or am I getting way ahead of you right now?
Well, I do have some initial plans in the works, and it's hard because I see September approaching, and I'm kind of like deer in the headlights of what?
I know, me too. That's how I am with my online program. I'm like, oh, I got time, and then I'm like, dun 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 dun, as like the calendar. Every time we do calendar day in preschool, we do calendar every morning, but every day I just watch the next number go up, and I'm like, oh God, April's going away now. I'm like, oh, they're singing the months of the year song, and they're dwindling. Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah. I luckily I don't do calendar time with my preschool. preschoolers.
So you're not reminded every single day, twice a day, actually, that your time is running out.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm only reminded of that when I click on my clock thing. I see the day of, and I'm like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
I think I have to do something.
Mm-hmm. Or when you come on an interview with me and I ask you all these questions and you're like, I haven't figured that out yet. Stop asking me those questions.
Yeah. Well, I do. It's really interesting because I'm also doing a bunch of other projects at the same time.
Of course you are.
Oh, yeah. I always have a
There's
ton
never just one or two things at once. What else you got in the works?
Oh my gosh. I have I co-authored a book with a bunch of people. And so that's coming out.
Oh, I saw that on your page. That sounds really interesting. How did that come into works?
Well, I was on I got, we had the Full by Fall summit that I did with Joy. And then after that, I was looking at other summits I could potentially do. And so I found one, I got on that summit, and one of those things was, well, hey, we want a bunch of, women entrepreneurs for this book. And I'm like, okay, I think I could write a chapter for that. I mean, I've written brochures before. I've done various things like that. I did a bunch of writing when I was in English class, right? And so I wrote a chapter of a book that's coming out. I don't know exactly when. We haven't gotten the stuff back from the professional editors yet. We're supposed to get that back next week. And we are going to be able to approve all the changes and anything that they did. Make sure all the information's correct before it goes to the printing press.
Yay! So now you can do business owner and teacher and author, and you got a lot of hats to wear. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then I'm also thinking that I'm going to take some time and write a couple of books just for myself, like by myself. And
just write a couple books. Why not?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Like biographies. What kind of books are these going to be? Are they going to be fiction? I got to know. I love reading.
I actually have ideas for 5 books, and I know one of them is going to be on sign language.
Nice.
And
are you doing signing with your school still? Is that a separate class with the preschool?
The preschool kindergartners.
Awesome.
All our pre-readers are in dual programs, so it's English and sign language at the same time. So
awesome.
We use Pigeon Signed English, which is cool. ASL signs in English word order.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so a sign language book. What else? What else? Throw me out one more idea that you got.
I'm thinking about a picture book that's growth mindset.
Love it. Are you going to illustrate it too? You got illustration skills along with your author skills?
I'm going to take the photos for it.
Oh, awesome.
So when I say picture book, I mean like literal pictures.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah.
That's so cool, man. I love all the talent that in this group. It's never just like one thing. They're also like, and I also have this project in my head, and they just like throw out random creative things. And I'm like, it's so awesome. I love it. So many creative people. Yeah.
And I one thing I really love about that group, Preschool All-Stars group, is that, there's so many people that I can relate to and that I can help, and just being in that world, a lot of people in Preschool All-Stars, they know me as like the technology person because
I know. They always mention you on this podcast. They're like, everyone in the group is so great, and Beth has helped me with everything. I'm like, I know. She's like the all-star. Seriously, you come up so much because you help so many people with all their stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I love that. And of course, the tech thing is like another side gig that I'm currently working on other stuff in the works for that. In fact, I'm even looking at ways to integrate some of the skills I developed in All-Stars into our high school programs and develop business models and training programs.
Oh, super cool.
Yeah, so I have some ideas of businesses that I want to start that we could offer to people in our adult program for job training, and then also for some of our high schoolers for like internship training. And developing that out. And of course, that's kind of a little bit on the back burner now that I'm developing the private school program.
Yeah.
And then of course we
Totally.
still have our early childhood program that is still in the works. I was hoping to get that up and running, but there are some, I ended up deep diving into a lot of research on that one.
Mm-hmm.
And you know
Yep.
how sometimes things
Laser
go,
focused on that.
yeah. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I need to think this through and stuff because the model I want to use is where we would be working with the parents and helping them teach their kids stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to make sure that I have like the best resources, the most up-to-date stuff on child development and how to deal with different issues and things, and make sure I'm really well versed in that first.
Right.
And to me, it was worth holding back on that program until I could do that. Whereas with my K-12 program, I am just super like, I know what I'm doing. I know, the homeschool environment. I know, all the different, classes that they need to take. I've passed like 95% of those classes myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest
Mm-hmm.
I just learn as they do. Like, I have kiddos that are, taking classes and like, can you help me with this? I'm like, yeah, sure. And I just like read through the thing and I figure it out as I go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's one of the really nice things too, is that sometimes, the kids seeing you figuring stuff out and see you learning things as you go. And
Yeah.
they,
Totally. So
you're,
valuable.
yeah, you're providing that model of this is how we learn stuff. This is,
Mm-hmm.
we don't just instantly know things. We have to
Yes.
work at it. And just because I'm faster than you at learning this doesn't mean that I'm better at it. It
Yeah.
just means that I'm a little bit faster at learning it because I've practiced learning things.
Mm-hmm. That is such a good point because kids think that grown-ups just know everything, and like clearly we don't. Actually, I was watching this documentary on babies and they were talking about this study that they did where the baby watched the parent try to open something, and they one side of it they gave up really quickly, and then the next one they tried and tried and tried until they got it. And the babies like modeled that when they watched the parent give up quickly, they tried like so much less and then gave up. And when they watched the parent like do it over and over and over again until they were able to open it, then the baby tried to do that as well. And it's like even at that little age they're looking at us to show them like how to learn and how to persevere and how to not give up, and that we don't know everything and that we're always learning. And I was like, that's really interesting because I mean, it's all really interesting, the child development side, but I'm like, gosh, I got to show my baby how to persevere. I'm not, every time I'm doing something that I'm annoyed, I'm like, don't give up. Silas could be watching.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like the number one thing I tell parents is that we shouldn't be praising our children just when they succeed. We need to be praising that effort. So,
Yes, totally.
yeah,
Agreed. Yeah.
it's really important to do that. And it's really amazing when you do praise that effort and stuff and they just keep going and keep reminding them that, you know, I didn't learn, to read overnight. It took me
Mm-hmm.
years of constant effort and, that daily effort. And of course, nowadays with kids, they're on YouTube and they have that thing where they just click to the next video. They get
Yeah.
bored and they just click and click. And so they get that, those dopamine hits of,
Mm-hmm.
getting that. And it's
Instant
hard for,
satisfaction. If they don't get it, they don't want to try.
yeah. And so they don't have any delayed, stuff. And that's
Yeah.
why I'm telling parents, don't let your kids watch YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Well, don't have the thing where they can just click randomly at different videos. They need to learn to watch a video all the way through.
Yeah, to focus on something. I
Yeah.
say 10 times a day, we can do hard things. Whenever one of my kids is struggling, it's okay. We can do hard things. Oh, this is hard. That's okay. You know what? We can do hard things. I say that all the time because I agree. It's like the same thing. It's like there is no perseverance anymore. You're right. The instant satisfaction of just, if I don't like it, if it makes me uncomfortable, if it's hard, I can just click on to the next thing. And then we have what we have, which is, I mean, we see it every day in like every aspect. I feel like we see this from younger kids to older kids now, of just like meh, click on to the next thing. I don't want to, I don't want to try hard. Pretty much. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, and the sad thing is I recognize that sometimes in myself.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
And
me too. Totally.
yeah, like I'm like, oh shoot, this question is hard.
Mhm.
Or this parent is asking me something I'm not sure of the answer of. Let me go check my other messages and make sure that nobody needs something like right now.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I've been putting off my founding family script because I was like, this is too hard to do that. It's too hard to put myself out there. I don't want to do it. I just did it today, Beth. Just want you to know I can do hard things. Put it out today. But just building the whole website, like all these things, I was like, I put it off for so long because I'm like, it's hard. I don't want to do it. It's hard. I'm not gonna do it. And now I feel so good about myself. I like persevered. I can do hard things. I did it. Took a long time and I got frustrated sometimes and I did it. And that's what we
Yeah.
got to show our kids. We got to show, like, it's okay to show our kids that we struggle with things. I feel like parents want to shield their kids from any sort of struggle, from letting their kids know that they don't know everything, that they're not perfect, like teaching our kids that we're not perfect and we struggle through hard things. Like, that's really important because how are they going to learn that it's okay to not be perfect and it's okay to struggle through things? And if we don't show them that, we do too.
Yeah, and it's interesting that we bring this up because some of those hard things are really hard things,
Mm-hmm.
and
And they're
um,
different hard things for different people. Some things are hard for people and not hard for others.
yeah, and when it comes to educating our children on things, I actually saw this post. Kind of, a lot of people were disturbed, right? They're teaching kids, about smoking and about drug use at like 4 and 5 years old. And the thing is those are conversations we have to have with our children. In fact, we do
Mm-hmm.
have to have conversations about guns and gun safety and things. And I'm not a person that owns a gun, right? Um, I vaguely could probably shoot one simply because I learned how to handle a BB gun. We
Mm-hmm.
had we had a BB gun when I was a teenager that my cousins were playing with, and my dad's like, okay, you're going to learn this now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've never actually handled a firearm, but I believe that children need to know this is a gun. This is a very serious thing. It is not a toy. And if you see one, you need to get an adult and you need to not touch it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Especially, I mean, even more so if you're a gun owner and you have it in your house, like that's, then you really need to teach gun safety or any situation like that. If it's around, then you really you can't shield them because it's already around for all of these things.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like a lot of parents, they want to bury their heads in the sand. And especially when it comes to things like sexual abuse and stuff. Parents
Mm-hmm.
do not want to talk about this. And unfortunately, I know a bit more about childhood sexual abuse than I would like to know
Mm.
from personal experience. I won't get to it on this podcast, but please, I want to encourage anybody listening, please do use proper names for body.
Yes. Yes.
It is super important that our children have that vocabulary and are able to speak about their private parts appropriately and correctly,
Yeah,
right?
I've been reading a lot about that as well. Definitely, you need to you need to arm them with the language to be able to express that.
Yeah, and that's the only way we can protect them because things happen. We, as much as it pains us and as much as we do not want these things to happen, they do happen. And the best that we can do when they do happen is investigate them and stop them from happening again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And try to heal from them. And so it's really important that, teach your kids that's a cigarette. This is why, it's bad for you. And you can use age appropriate language and stuff. Cigarettes are bad for your health. They're worse for your health than candy. I would much prefer you eat candy than be around a lit cigarette
Mm-hmm.
because candy will cause issues with your teeth, but we might get the dentist to fix that. Cigarettes cause issue with our lungs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, just bringing it up early and often will make it not taboo. So then when those things come up, then they can come to you. And it's not this thing that, I see on moms groups, I'm on the moms groups all the time, stalking them for for clientele anyway, but I see so many things on mom's group that like parents of like older kids are upset about something that happened with them and or something that maybe they saw in their kid's phone or something, their 12-year-old's phone, and I can't believe my child's talking about this, they didn't hear it at home. And it's like, yeah, they didn't hear it at home, so now they're asking their friends about it, and you're shocked about what you're seeing because their friends don't know about it either, you know, like, so they're passing around crazy information and getting disinformation, and it's like a lot of that could have been stopped if you addressed it early and made it this thing that wasn't a scary or awkward, weird thing to talk about for them. And that's easy for me to say because I have a 1-year-old. So but I think about it all the time. Like how, I mean, I talk just about my husband too. Like, how are we going to address this when it comes up? Because I'm not going to wait until it's too late and they've learned about it from someone else. I don't want that. Like, we're the people that need to address this. And, you know, especially with the internet these days, like, kids are learning stuff earlier that like it freaks me out how young they're learning it, you know, and a lot of time it's not proper information and it's, you know, so yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with this. And I it keeps me up at night thinking about how I'm going to address these things and when and the proper way to do it and the age appropriate and how to make it just, I just want to, you know, I want to be open and honest about it. And I want to be that person that they can come to without anything being weird or taboo. But I was not raised that way. So I have to get over my own weird things about it, you know?
Yeah.
It takes a lot of self-work.
Yeah, it does. And it's especially hard when you see these things in kids that aren't your own kids. For instance, my nephew, you know, his mom was sick and he was worried about it. I'm like, okay, well, I sat him down and he was like 5 at the time. His mom, you know, had, she was really sick. We were worried about her. And I explained to him that, yeah, something could go wrong and she could potentially die, but we are hoping that doesn't happen. And here's what's going on. And I explained it to him and I kept explaining it to him and it led to a conversation on atoms and molecules.
Science talk.
Yeah. I think a lot of my hard conversations end up going into science topics simply because I tend to, when I get, you know, when these things come up, I tend to just go straight for like educational materials.
Yeah.
I just, that's just
explain it, the science, the thinking, not the feeling.
Yeah. And, you know, we had a cousin had passed away and he knew about that happening. And so he knew what it was for somebody, you know, to pass away like that. And so, yeah, having that hard conversation with him, you know, and he was crying in the middle of it, but by the end of it, he was happy again. He's like, okay, I know what's going on now. I know why the adults are worried. You know, it made sense to him then, you know, so it really. What
could be scarier than feeling in the dark that everyone around you is keeping stuff from you, you know, not
and,
knowing why they're keeping it. Like, that's really scary. I can imagine.
Yeah, and all the adults were upset around him, and I knew he was picking up on it. So I needed to have that conversation with him because I knew the other family members just weren't up for it. You know, you can look at people and you can tell like they were in their own things, you know.
Yeah.
So,
I think it comes down to treating kids like people. They are like, they're people. Kids are people and they have feelings and they have like, and we need to like address them and understand them, and so they can understand the world around them, because treating them just as like these little creatures that can't understand anything, you know, and so we're going to hide them from things and we're going to, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it belittles them because kids do understand it if we take the time to explain, or they're going to come up with some crazy idea in their head that will probably be worse than, you know, than the truth anyway. So just treating them with the respect to, you know, acknowledge that they're humans and they have these feelings and these needs, and not just brushing them off as, oh, you're just a kid, you won't understand.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of times when I'm talking to kids, I don't hold back on my vocabulary. I have, you know, probably university level vocabulary I've had since I was in at least middle school. you know,
Yeah.
and so I don't hold back on my vocabulary, you know, and so I use those higher level words even with the 3-year-old, you know, like I'll explain stuff with those higher level words, and then when he doesn't recognize them, then I explain them, you know, and
Right.
so
And what a better way to teach new words than to use
yeah,
them and
exactly.
explain them. Yeah, totally. Oh, wow. Well, we've gotten way off topic, but I sure have loved this discussion.
Yeah, yeah, we've gone way off topic.
That's all right. Sometimes I like diving deep. In fact, I want to start a podcast called Diving Deep, where we dive deep about weird conversations that people don't really want to talk about. Because I
That
do
would be
that all the
awesome.
time, and it makes others around me a little awkward. And I'm just like free flowing talking, and it drives my husband nuts. He's like, you can't talk about that. It makes people uncomfortable. And I'm like, maybe we need to be uncomfortable then. So I have thought about starting a podcast where I just talk to people about stuff that no one really wants to talk about.
Well, that would be an excellent idea.
Right? Okay,
Yeah.
well, if I do, then I'll invite you on and we can talk about all the stuff that no one wants to talk about.
Yeah, that sounds like it'd be up my alley, because I could go on about certain topics.
All right, well, maybe we should collaborate, Beth. We'll get back to you on this. This is a good idea. I like this. All right, but back to preschool. So last time I talked to you, you were just starting your online homeschool group, and now you got like so many things in the work. One of them being a whole private school, which is pretty crazy for less than 2 years. Come a long way.
Yeah, it's been an interesting and wild ride, for sure.
And what do you think you've learned? What's been the biggest thing that you've learned so far?
Well, I've learned that I can do things. Like I
do hard things.
Yeah, I can totally do hard things.
Yeah, you can. I think that's what most all-stars learn. I always ask that question, and I feel like that's like the biggest thing, is that we can do hard things, because none of us come into any of this being comfortable with any of it, you know?
Yeah.
I thank God for you, because I think the tech thing with the all-stars is probably the hardest thing, and you really help people out with that. But I mean, whether it's putting themselves out there, whether it's building a website, whether it's going live, whether it's quitting their, whatever it is, it's all hard, and we're all doing it.
Yeah. And that's what's really cool. And that's why I really enjoy, helping people and stuff and seeing them overcome these things, because I'm helping my students overcome things and learn new things. But then I also get to go and help adults do things that are eventually, if you think about the people that I'm helping in All Stars, they're then going and they're helping other kids. So in a way, all that help I'm providing people is actually helping a whole bunch more kids.
Yeah, well, that's a great way to think about it.
Yeah, I'm just like magnifying my reach kind of in some ways. And that's just really cool. And so I like to think that eventually, I could do stuff where I could magnify my reach even more. And, I hired an assistant, and I have a bookkeeper and stuff, so I'll be able to hire other people and do those hard
team
things
to support you.
Yeah, I get a team together to support me and be able to pursue all the things that I want to pursue. And it's been so amazing. I mean, and to think it all started with preschool.
Yeah, it all started with a little online preschool. I didn't know what we're doing, and now look at you. You got an assistant. You got an assistant, a bookkeeper. I need a bookkeeper. That's my next thing. I got to get a bookkeeper because I'm not good at bookkeeping. Actually, I need an assistant too. Maybe I just need someone to do my job. I kind of miss just being the teacher and not dealing with all the other stuff, I kind of want to switch and have my teacher do all the other stuff and then just be the teacher. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, the nice thing about being a teacher is you're just basically playing with the kids, because
I know, I love it.
Yeah, it's like all I want to do sometimes is just play with the kids, and like it's so awesome. I'm super excited about that classroom getting finished, though. Like,
yeah, wait, so is the local classroom?
No, it's going to be my online studio room.
Okay.
But I call it classroom. This right here is my office. The classroom room that I'm using for my classroom is next door.
Okay.
And that's where we just put in the shelves yesterday,
Nice.
to organize everything. And I'm really excited about that, because once everything is organized, I'm going to be having like all of my supplies, all of my manipulatives, everything in that room. And so, when I get those spur of the moment things where the kids are really interested in something, I can just go grab something off the shelf.
Oh yeah, totally.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that so much.
That is like a goal I have that I don't think I'll ever reach.
I, I have lofty goals for it, and I've been spending the last 3 weeks working on this room, and just gathering everything from the house. Like, I'm like, whatever needs to go in the classroom, just push it into the classroom, right? And so that's what I've been doing, and I just can't wait for it to be finished.
Totally. I just bought a cabinet that is now in my living room, but I bought a cabinet for my teacher because we have all these games and everything. And behind my couch in my living room is like just boxes of stuff that's unorganized that we rotate in and out. And every time I try and organize it, I'm like, sweet, I cleaned out all that. Then there's more stuff. So I got a cabinet for my teacher, and I'm like, listen, this is your cabinet. I won't touch it, because she's organized, she's organized, and that's great. And I'm like, I won't touch it. I promise, because everything I touch turns into a mess. It's like, I put my finger on it and it's like poof, and everything's like everywhere. So I'm like, that's your cabinet, girl. You do you. I won't touch it. I promise. It'll just sit in my living room, and I'll write your name on it if you want. I'm just going to leave it.
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Totally.
I have that. We actually have 2 refrigerators in my house. And so my cousin has one and I have the other one, because, he doesn't like to keep the food very organized, whereas I like to actually be able to find what I want to eat.
Yes,
so
yes. I'm your cousin in that situation, definitely. Oh man, I just thought organizational skills would be one of those things that came as you became a grown-up, but they didn't. Kind of like enjoying vegetables and making my bed. None of those came as I got older, and I thought they would, but
no, those are like, our executive processing skills and stuff, and kiddos need help with those too.
I know.
So if you have a kiddo that is perpetually messy and disorganized, you need to look up executive processing skills and start working with them on it.
I know. I've been trying to get my own executive processing skills up and trying, because I definitely don't have those skills. For some reason in the preschool, it's easier for me than in the rest of my house, because everything has its own place. But like, as soon as you walk out of the preschool, then everything's a mess and I can't keep it together. And no matter what I could try and keep organized, I just can't do it. I don't know why. Every cabinet, every drawer, every surface. It's frustrating.
Well, the other thing is, when you have other people living in your house too, sometimes you're like, wait, where did it go? It was right here. It just disappeared.
Yeah.
And
I would like to blame that on my husband, but it's totally not him. It's all me. It is. And I have a kid now, and I don't want my kid to be a hot mess. So I got to teach him to do it the right way, but I don't do it the right way. So all these things keep me up at night. I'm going to have a messy kid because I'm a messy person.
Or you'll have a kid that just constantly cleans up after you.
Oh, that would be so nice. That would be so nice.
If
I just got him a little play vacuum because he loves vacuuming. So I'm really hoping that, like, as I try and teach him these things, then, then I get better at it. I'm learning with him. I'm trying to change the patterns.
They have these like toy vacuum cleaners now that actually suck stuff up.
I know. I just ordered it off Amazon. I can't wait for it to come in. I think I'm more excited than him. He's been so excited about the vacuum that he yells every time I turn it off. So I'm like, I got to get you a vacuum. And now I have like cool pictures in my head of us just vacuuming together, cleaning the house together, He's got to learn to walk first, but I got him one that comes off and it's handheld. So he actually doesn't need to learn how to walk first. So It's coming in tomorrow and we're going to vacuum all day. I can't wait.
Oh, wow. You got to take some pictures and video for us.
Oh, I will. My phone is filled with pictures of the kid. He's going to have a complex. I promise. Well, thank you so much for talking with me, Beth. It was so good to catch up and hear what you got going on. You got so many exciting things. You're an author. You're going to have a private school. You got so many things.
Yeah, it is exciting. And I can't wait to see where I am in another year and a half.
Me too. We will definitely have to catch up, have another follow-up episode to see what's going on then. And I think I am going to contact you about the diving deep because I like diving deep, and I think that would be a fun idea.
Yeah, that would definitely be
All right. Stay tuned, podcast. We might have another podcast rolling on in. Thank you so much. And I'll be catching.
If you loved today's episode, then you are going to love this. I want to give you a free gift in your hands. This is a copy of my book, Start Your Preschool, and I want to get it to you for free. Yes, I said for free. It is a 300-page book. It'll help you learn the step-by-step process to actually starting your local or your online preschool. Every single step that I walked myself through, as well as the thousands of women who've created their own successful preschools, have gone through the exact steps listed in this book. Not to mention, I also share 20 amazing women's stories. So you can see how not only did it work for me, but it works for amazing women just like you as well. I want to get you this free copy. Just go to freepreschoolbook.com or click the link in the description and we'll get it to you today. Again, just go to freepreschoolbook.com and we'll get it right to you.